Let's add in some world assets that are not interactable in a sense that we're going to be like touching the spacebar and we can pick them up, but more so we can't run into them. So we're going to have a collision, just like we have a collision with these red squares around the map. So I can't walk out into the water or wherever I don't want my player to go. The walls, I'm gonna have a similar thing going on with these world decoration objects. So I've already uploaded my sprite, renamed them s underscore whatever their name is, created an object, and then with the o underscore and the name of the object, and assigned them to the correct sprite. And in the sprite editor, you'll see collision mask. By default, it will be automatic rectangle. You can go into manual and alter it just a bit. So maybe we'll do, I don't know, something like that. Maybe like that for the tree. And there are a couple different shapes you can play around with, but should be good to go. So you should have a new object asset for every new asset world decor, I guess that's what I'm calling it. An object asset for every new decor with its corresponding sprite. Highly recommend putting them into a folder within that folder. Just so much easier to work with. And if your sprites, or any of your assets, when you go to new asset and create, it will automatically generate that asset in whatever folder you have open at the time. So if I was had clicked scripts and I created a new sprite and I couldn't find it, it's probably because when I generated it, I was not so I did not have the correct folder selected. So just be mindful of that. But we're going to add one new object asset. We're going to call it O collision parent. We could also call it decor collision. Just make sure you add parent at the end. And this is going to be sort of like a placeholder object that we don't put in the world. But it is something that controls the interaction or collision or whatever of its children. So we're going to open up parent and add the birdhouse and the tree as children. So however many assets, if you have a birdhouse, tree, rock, fence, whatever, objects that have the same collision, a parent and child or parent to child object is the way to go. And we're going to make a parent object for our enemies as well, because we have multiple enemies, right? And they're all going to function exactly the same. So instead of adding a unique code or adding, hedgehog 1, 2, 3, 4, however many, and adding those unique codes to each of those hedgehogs, we just have this parent that tells us, or that we can reference in the code to say, hey, all of these objects need to behave this way. So the parent makes the rules and the children follow. So in Kiwi, let's go in, add a collision to, oh, see, I did it. Collision to our parent. And let's zoom out a bit, and I'll be sure to screenshot this as well. So first we need to start with an if object is at place, add the parent in, and then we'll go x previous. We're going to do one for x and y. And then check not. And then we're going to add a jump to point. Make sure it comes off the side, not off the bottom. Then an else statement. And this one comes off the bottom. So one more if object at place, and that one's going to come off the side. Parent, and this one is going to be just x, y previous, check not, true, a jump, y previous. Then we need one more else statement under this guy, yep, and then one more jump to point. X previous, y previous. So we're telling it that you know, for x and y, if my player collides with this collision parent, which commands all the children, so any of the children that live under the parent, if Kiwi collides with any of those, then go to the previous XY position. I think that should be good. Let me make some space here and screenshot it. Okay, cool. So Kiwi has that collision assigned. Let's go in and add those objects to our world. So I'm just going to drag, making sure I'm on my instance layer. That's where our player, our enemies, NPCs, everything's going to be here. I'm just going to drag it right. Let's drag it here. Actually, I want to move Hedgehog. He can live here. And then his path, we want to move that too. T, left click. Cool. Just get him out of the way. And then we'll drag a tree in. All right. Let's test it out. All right. So you can see I can walk up to it. I'm underneath it. Oh, I'm stuck. Oh, okay, I'm not. So I might have to like play with that collision mask just a bit. But as you can see, I can't walk through it. So this is a great way to add in decorative objects that you know, you can't walk through. So these houses, for example, would be a good object asset to do that with. But they, you know, alternatively, you can also do this invisible wall collision, which, if you remember, has a very simple jump to point, minus x, or negative x, negative y, relative, but we get some goofy results from this sometimes if they're not placed right, and especially if there's like holes in the collision, so just keep that in mind. But that is it for adding your world assets and like decorative objects that we can't run into or run through. So cool.